And first tonight, a new criminal investigation and state audit are underway to allegations of ghost employment within the Columbus Police Department.
We're talking about police officers accused of working other jobs while on the clock for the department. WRTV Investigates Kara Kenny has learned that even the top officers in the department are under investigation.
Columbus is a mid-sized city with about 50,000 residents. Dave Jones is one of them, and he's concerned about his family's safety.
Breaking and entering and drugs and theft and on the streets. Over the years, it's gotten worse.
Dave expects police to focus on crime and public safety, but Dave has concerns after we shared our findings of Columbus police officers moonlighting.
Did you know your taxpayer money was being spent this way?
Absolutely not.
We'll get to those findings, but first, the backstory. Back in February, prosecutors criminally charged Columbus Police Lieutenant Dan Meister and Sergeant Ronald May after an investigation by Indiana State Police found they worked overlapping shifts at the police department and worked security at Columbus Regional Hospital on numerous occasions between 2015 and 2018. The charges: theft, official misconduct, and ghost employment. IU business law and ethics professor Arthur Lopez explains why that's important.
Ghost employment is basically stealing from the government, where you go out there and you are being paid, you have a pre-existing duty to do a job, but during that time, you're doing something else. You're doing some other job, so you're basically stealing.
Police Chief John Rohde took office in May 2014, and in 2019, he had this to say about Meister and May. Our officers are held to the highest of standards and are expected to uphold and follow the law. But WRTV Investigates received tips that Rohde and other officers were also working other jobs that overlap. We filed multiple records requests and found Rohde also worked security at Columbus Regional Hospital while he was chief, often relieved by Lieutenant Meister, one of the officers charged. We analyzed time records and counted at least 131 days between 2015 and 2018 in which Rohde's work with the city appeared to overlap with his shift at Columbus Regional Hospital. While most police officers spend their days and nights going out on runs in the community, the role of a police chief is much more administrative in nature. Police administration office hours are 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., according to their website. But time records show Chief Rohde typically worked at the hospital from 3:30 p.m. to 9:30 p.m. one day a week. Rohde had a third job, too. While he was chief, John Rohde also worked as a mediator for the Indiana Office of Court Services. As an attorney, he helped resolve mortgage foreclosure cases between homeowners and banks. Records show Rohde billed the state for hundreds of phone and in-person conferences that all took place during normal business hours. We counted 68 days between May 2014 and 2018 in which Rohde reported working a full day at the police department, but also worked for court services, sometimes for hours. For example, on August 3, 2017, records show Rohde was in court hearings for the state from 1:30 p.m., with the last one starting at 4:15 p.m. The same day, records show he also claimed to be working a full day during normal business hours at the Columbus Police Department.
What do you think about that?
It's appalling, really. It's not right. There's no way that he could have been giving 100% to any of his duties anywhere he was at, especially not as police chief. When he should have been on the clock.
Rohde would not speak with us about his two other jobs. Former Columbus Mayor Kristen Brown appointed John Rohde as chief in May 2014.
When you were the mayor, did you know that he was doing this?
No, I had no idea. It kind of makes you wonder, like, when did he have time to be the police chief?
Brown says it's important for the chief to be there during normal business hours to respond to questions and concerns from officers, citizens, the mayor, and city council.
They expect the police chief to be there Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. That's his job.
Brown started looking into this more than a year ago.
A friend of mine was going through a foreclosure and said, hey, you'll never guess who was my mediator through this foreclosure process, it's the police chief. And I said, really?
Brown says officers are not allowed to just shift their schedules around to accommodate a second job. She points to city policy that says all officers shall report to duty on or before the scheduled time and shall not be absent without leave. Records reflect that Rohde occasionally used paid time off to accommodate his other jobs, but most of the time he did not. However, records also show Rohde started using more paid time off on the days he worked other jobs at the end of 2018, when the Meister and May investigations began.
Why should taxpayers know that this was going on?
At the end of the day, it's their hard-earned money. But yeah, they should care. It's their money.
Records show that as police chief, Rohde earned more than $80,000 a year. His extra work at the hospital and court services brought in an additional $100,000 over a span of 6 years.
He can't be paid by the city while he's working for someone else. I mean, that's ghost employment.
We also shared our findings with Professor Lopez. He's a former police officer and says law enforcement is held to a higher standard.
He is a role model. The rest of his people are watching. So do we know that the rest of his force is saying, well, the boss is doing it, why can't I do it?
Kristen Brown says other officers did the same thing.
No, it doesn't appear to be isolated. It appears to be pervasive.
Time records she obtained show 2 other officers also worked at the hospital and had overlapping hours with their police shifts. We tried to get those same records, but the city told us it does not have records responsive to our request. WRTV Investigates has confirmed a criminal investigation is underway. Indiana State Police telling us they're investigating allegations of ghost employment involving the Columbus Police Department. Special prosecutors have also been appointed, and WRTV has learned the Indiana State Board of Accounts is conducting an audit into the allegations as well. John Rohde stepped down as chief at the end of 2019 and is now a captain with the department. He was elected a Superior Court judge in Bartholomew County and heads to the bench in January. Michael Richardson is now the police chief. Records show state auditors are also reviewing Richardson's time records as well.
We requested on-camera interviews with the mayor, the current police chief, as well as Captain John Rohde. All 3 declined, as well as the city attorney, who sent us this statement saying he understands that the city's timekeeping system can be confusing.
The city attorney points out they implemented a new digital timekeeping system in January 2019 that added additional checks and balances. His statement went on to say the police department operates 24 hours a day, and the officers from the newest patrol officer to the chief of police are required to be present at meetings, training, and emergencies that might arise outside of their regular working hours. Traditional work schedules aren't always applicable, and our goal is to respond to the needs of the community. Brown agrees the chief sometimes has to work outside of business hours for things like city council and neighborhood watch meetings.
Each of those times, he's earning paid time off.
But Brown points out Rohde often was not using paid time off when working for the hospital and court services.
Legally, he's perfectly legally able to do that, again, as long as he's taking paid time off from the city, which he clearly wasn't doing.
Brown and taxpayer Dave Jones say the city needs to make additional changes.
If you're going to have a job outside of the city, probably should be disclosed. I think that would go a long way.
Additional policies and procedures should be put in place. It needs to be locked down. You need to be on the job.
Working for you, Kara Kenny, WRTV.
Officers Meister and May are now retired from the department. They have repaid taxpayers more than $9,000. That's what state auditors requested they pay back. Both Meister and May are scheduled for a court hearing on December 23rd, during which they're expected to plead guilty to at least one of the charges. Their attorneys have not responded to our requests for comment. You can read the full statement from the Columbus City Attorney in this story on the WRTV app and at our website at WRTV.com.